if you don't know, I love to play a lot of soccer. No one soccer fans here tonight. Everyone's just crickets. Does anyone like football? I'm not gonna be game to call it football. I'll get slaughtered before I leave. But I play for a team here in Toowoomba, and I tell you what, there's a really good feeling. Or when you win, that's always good for one. Which unfortunately recently we haven't had much of those, but that's all right. But when you win, it's the best feeling. And another good feeling is when you actually come back. So let's say you're losing, and then for whatever reason, somehow you and the boys just manage to just string things together. And before you know it, you're on top. You are feeling on top of the world. There was this one game that comes to mind for me in my career where we were losing. I think at halftime it was either 0-0 or we were losing. And somehow, within like 5 minutes, we managed to score like 3 goals. And it was like right at the end of the game, there was like 5 minutes left, we scored 1. I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna draw. That felt like a win. If we were just gonna draw the game, that would have felt like a win. But then we actually went on to actually win the game. So I got a video real quick, which I'm gonna try and not get too excited. This is it here.
Sound of the police, I was shook, but I kept it cool. Put this over on the shoulder just to say he dug the tunes. Then he let me go with a warning, we was on our way. 45 in the 50 till I hit the highway. Been about it, glory to the Father, I don't do the drama. I went vegan for the weekend, now I'm back to beef and broccoli. Sipping sake, practice wabi sabi, I don't need a thotty. My girl got that body yachty, when we walk inside the party, they like, OMG, know it's been a minute, tell me where you been, huh? Been about it.
Oh man, I'm getting so G'd up just watching that. I'm about to put my boots on. I was joking to Levi. Oh, we can watch it again. I'll watch that all night. No. Wow, look at that goal. No. Man, I was talking to Levi like sometimes before games, I actually sleep with my boots on. No, I'm joking. I don't do that. But man, something about that game and many other games, and yeah, we haven't had many wins recently, so that's actually so good to watch, just quietly. But something about every game we play is that it doesn't really matter how you start, it really is how you finish. Like, it doesn't really matter what you brought to the game on game day. My friend, if you don't rock up and play for the full 90 minutes, you're a waste of space. As far as the sport listens to you. It's harsh, but you can prep all week, and if you don't bring it to the game, it doesn't really matter. But what I love about sport is that there's this moment in the middle of the game, halftime. If you've never heard of that, maybe find a sport. Halftime, a moment where you're able to sort of take a second, take a breath, reflect on what's happened, and maybe figure out what you need to change moving forward. I don't know if you've been halfway through something before. Maybe you're halfway through a queue. I remember I went to an event with Rahul and a few other people. We were in I just called you out. You better be listening. No. We were in a queue for like hours, but we got to halfway, and that was like our saving grace. We're like, all right, at least we're halfway. At least we're halfway through this thing. Maybe you've been halfway through a degree. Who's a university student here tonight? Whack your hand up nice. Come on, be proud. Be proud to be studying. No one's proud. Maybe you're halfway through your degree or an assignment, that feeling of being halfway. You're like, I'm halfway, okay. At least I'm halfway. That's good. And right now, we actually clocked halfway through the year not long ago. I think it was like, a couple of days ago, last week. And I wonder, being halfway through the year, what words come to mind for you to describe the first 6 months of 2024? I wonder what words pop up in your head as we're talking about this right now. Maybe it's stoked. Maybe it's super happy. Maybe it's excited to see what's coming up next. Maybe it's unsure. Maybe it's, man, this year's been better than I could have imagined. Or maybe it's, dang, this year's been worse than I could have imagined. I couldn't have even written a script like that. If we're honest with ourselves, sometimes we can just go, and not even take a second and just think, what has happened so far? Like, what has the year actually looked like? So I wonder what words come to mind for yourself when thinking about the year. Maybe you're feeling excited here tonight, thinking, you know what, it's July, let's go. Christmas in July, let's get amongst it. Let's get going for the rest of the year. Or maybe you're feeling tired tonight. Maybe you're like, gee, surely November's close. Surely Christmas season's coming. And honestly, if I'm speaking really transparently, I know for me, I can sort of get to June, July, and then you're sort of like, before you know it, the Christmas carols are playing in the shopping centers, and then the year's kind of wrapped up, and then you're kind of like, dang, that kind of went pretty quick. I want to camp out at this topic tonight of being halfway through the year. And I want to ask us some questions, and the title of my message tonight is Questions Worth Asking Halfway Through the Year. To yourself. Questions worth asking yourself halfway through the year. Because the reality is, if your year's been great so far, make some noise if your year's been great. I was going to say make some noise if your year's been bad, but we don't want to celebrate that. But whatever it's looked like, whether it's good or bad, I believe that the best days for your life are actually not in the past. I believe that your best days, whether you believe it or not, I actually genuinely think that they're actually in front of you. And the next 6 months of this year, it's not like December's the goal. Let's just get to December. No, let's just think that from this point forward for the rest of your life, your best days are in front of you. So whatever it has looked like, let's not dwell on it. Let's not just sit on it and just be like, oh man, 6 months through the year, nothing good to show for it, man. Sometimes I feel like throwing my arms up in the air in life sometimes, eh? But instead, let's fix our eyes on what's to come. I love this verse in Isaiah 43, 18 to 21. It says, forget the former things. Don't dwell on the past. Some of us, we've been dwelling on the past, sitting, watching it over and over in our mind and thinking, why are things not looking different? Maybe it's because we've been staring at things that have already happened. And our life is going to move in the direction of our strongest thoughts. So if we're just staring at the bad stuff, the annoying stuff, all the things that trigger ourselves, all the things that have gone wrong, I'm going to be really shocked if we're going to start living a life that's different to that. I know for me, I can totally relate when looking at things that have already happened and not seeing anything new. The second half of that scripture says, see, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? So my question to you tonight is, have you got a hold of something new? Have you got a hold of something new heading into the second half of this year? Have you got a hold of something? Because it's all well and good to come to church and hear a nice message and really spend some awesome time in worship, but what's going to happen when you leave this room tonight? What's going to happen when we get to December 31st and you're thinking about, that was an interesting year. What are you going to have to say about it? Are you going to have things that you wish you'd done? Things that you wish you made a decision to do? Or are you going to say, you know what, no, I squeezed every drop out of that year. I gave it everything I got. I believe that there's best days in front of me. Someone just say, my best days are ahead of me. In soccer, the halfway point throughout the game, there's kind of 3 questions that essentially gets answered in the conversations that we have with our coach. 3 questions that basically, through the conversations we have, he might not be up there like, all right, boys, question 1. But through the conversations we have with each other and with our coach, we kind of answer like these 3 questions. I'm going to talk about them tonight. The first one is, what's working? What's working? Someone just say, what's working? Coming into the dressing rooms at halftime in a game, there's all sorts. If you've played sport, you're definitely going to relate to this. But coming into the sheds or dressing rooms at halftime, there is so many different mindsets and so many different emotions just all over the show. Like some players I know, he's walking in and he takes his shin pads off, kicks it around. He's like, shirt off, just sitting there like, this sucks, man. This game is going horribly. Maybe some people have regret. Maybe they missed the goal or missed a shot or made a mistake that led to a goal against them. Or maybe they're there and they're just like angry. I remember, sorry to call you out, bro. Matt Hull is an absolute legend. I used to play some soccer with him. And you would know there's a lot of interesting halftime conversations where coaches might be yelling at players might be bickering back to the coach, and it can be honestly just like a very hectic environment. But this question that we end up answering through the conversations we have, it actually levels our emotions. And it reminds us that no matter what that first half looked like, it could have been good, bad, or really ugly sometimes, there was actually positives in the midst of it. And I feel like sometimes when we can reflect on our life and we can just go, we don't even know what's going well sometimes because we're just focused on all the things that are going wrong. halfway through a game, we have a second to just chill out and really think about, all right, what's actually working? Like before we move on, before we go into the next half and put our boots on and keep going again, what is working? What's going well? I don't know if you've done an assignment before. I remember the amount of times I've been doing an assignment and I'm just thinking like, is this at all on the right track? Like I feel like I'm just going in blind thinking, is this assignment even going the right direction? Is my teacher going to be just scratching her head when she's marking this? Like what is wrong with this student? But the minute I get feedback from a teacher saying, all right, that section there, it's on the right track, I get this like confidence and I'm almost like, oh, so good. I have a bit of an idea of what's working well, what's working well. And what I love about soccer as well is that our coach, whether it's even just a small little thing, he makes us call it out. Even if it is just like, all right, maybe we're losing, maybe we've got 3 red cards, which sometimes happens. Maybe things aren't going to plan. But boys, like we're stringing our passes together well. Like let's keep going, let's keep going. We focus on the positives. What's working? So I wonder, as you're here tonight, thinking about your year, thinking about your life, thinking about what January to June or July the 7th, this first half of the year, ask yourself the question, what's been going well? Or what's working? Wonder when the last time you just took a second to just stop and celebrate some of the achievements that you've had. And celebrate some of the things that are actually going super, super well, but we just brush over them and they just go under our radar. Because it's just, there's nothing big's happened in my life. Sometimes we can say that. Nothing that big's going on. How's your week been? Yeah, it's been good, man. Nothing really is going on. But sometimes there's actually so many small things that we need to celebrate. There's so many small decisions that we make on a daily basis that you should actually just give yourself a little pat on the back to remind yourself that, okay, this is actually working. This is actually helping me. This is pushing me towards a better version of myself. I love what this says in Zechariah 4:10. It says, do not despise small beginnings. Do not despise small beginnings. For the Lord rejoices to see the work just begin. So whether it's massive accomplishments, maybe you've had some massive milestone moments this year, or maybe it doesn't feel like there's any huge things that's happened, we need to call those things out and celebrate every single one of them. Maybe you've just tried a new hobby. Maybe you've made some new friends this year. Maybe you've stepped out of your comfort zone heaps at work. Maybe you've actually stepped out of your little friendship circle and said, you know what, I actually want to try and make other people feel welcome. I want to go and encourage someone. I want to go out of my way and encourage somebody else. That's something to be proud of. That's something to be celebrating. Maybe you've been looking at your routine. You've been trying to put fitness into somewhere in your routine in life. Maybe you've been trying to juggle things around to get more sleep. Maybe you've been trying to change the way you approach work to go to sleep earlier so you're not getting there in the nick of time and then having like 15 minutes to just like recuperate. But maybe you've been shuffling around your schedule trying to make things work. Maybe that's working for you. All the wins, whether it's small or big, they're all worth celebrating. So what decisions have you made this year that's pushing you towards your goals? Which areas have you seen growth in? Have a think. Even if you can't think now, just have a think in the next few days. What's been going well for me? Just ask yourself, what has been going well for me? What are some areas of my life that I can say, yeah, that's working well. That's serving me well. I think of this analogy I heard someone use once that actually always encourages me. And it's like this staircase analogy where sometimes you can just be going up a staircase and a flight of stairs and you might not even realize how far you've actually come. I think sometimes we can just get in this like grind and hustle mode where we just keep on going and going and going, which is awesome to go. But I think, man, some of us, we need to just take a second, look behind, and I think we'd actually be shocked at how far we've come. I think you'd be surprised if you sat across from the version of you 24 months ago and had a conversation with them. I think you'd be surprised at how much you've grown, how much you've actually changed, how much you've become a better person, how much more confident you've become, how much more secure you've come on yourself. I think we'd be surprised. So when's the last time you took a second? When's the last time you took a second and just stop and be like, how am I going? How am I going? What's working? What's working well? Maybe some of us are sitting here tonight with answered prayers in your life. but we don't even realize. Because we're focused on all the things that aren't going to plan and all the things that we're we're chasing after that. Nothing wrong with chasing after things, but man, I'll tell you what, I think you'd even have more momentum chasing after those things if you took the second to just turn around and be like, dang, life's pretty good. I've had a lot of wins. I've made a lot of good decisions. I've got a lot of great people around me. What's working? Maybe some of us need to go back to your list. Put your hand up if you're a list person. Are you a list person? Like you set out your goals at the start of the year? Some of us, maybe you need to go back tonight, pull up that list, and start checking some things off. Showing yourself that you've actually got some wins on the board here. It's not all bad. It's not all just a rat race. You actually are making progress. I think it would be a shame to just step right into the second half of this year thinking that nothing's worked, nothing's going well, and we're just going to keep chugging along, just going. Just seeing what's in it for me, seeing what the next 6 months look like. But what if we changed our perspective? What if we, leaving this place tonight, decided, you know what? This first 6 months of this year might not have looked how I wanted it to look, might not have looked the way I thought it was going to look, but you know what? There's actually been some wins. I need to celebrate some wins in my life. I'm breathing, I'm alive, I've got a family, I've got friends, I've got a church, I've got a car, I've got an ability to actually go to a job. Some people would kill to be in our shoes. Some people wishes that they were in jobs that we had and wishes that they had some of the struggles we had. What's working? What's working? Someone just say, what's working? Ask yourself, what's working? Even if it's a small win, it's still significant. Even if it's a small win, it is still significant. So if we talk about what is working, the second one to talk about is what's not working. What's not working? I know you enter all these different soccer games with this plan. Maybe the whole week you've been trying to plan a certain strategy. Maybe you've been watching the other team play and trying to think, all right, well, they're weaklings of this area, so let's try and mold our whole plan to try and make it work this certain way. Let's play this formation, let's do this, let's do that. Let's have a strategy. And sometimes that stuff sounds so good in theory. Just sounds awesome. On the whiteboard, it looks spectacular. And then you lace up and you start playing and you're just like, this has turned to absolute shambles. Like, I remember this one time we started the warm-up and I was so confident. I was like, my teammates are here today. They are here physically, emotionally, mentally. They are ready to rip in, and we are going to leave with multiple goals. We're going to leave with morale high. And I was like, literally going into it, like, we're about to smoke these mugs. And we're going. And I think, like, we just got stunned. Honestly, we got stunned. And I look around during the game, and this is what we look like. And like my teammates who are usually the fit ones are like red in the face, sweating all over the show. I'm like, oh, geez. If they're sweating, if the fit guys are tired, I'm sure you can understand what the rest of the team's going to be looking like at that point. But we can go in with this plan that sounds so good, sounds so amazing, and then eventually sometimes it just doesn't go to plan. It honestly just doesn't go to plan. And I wonder if you can relate to that maybe in this year. Maybe it's like, you know what, you set out with X, Y, Z that you wanted to go chase after and do, which is awesome. But maybe in theory the plan sounded great, but maybe you're like, dang, it's just not working. The decisions I'm making to try and help me get where I want to go in this life is just not working. It's just not working. And I think I think it's the definition of, insanity, just doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting something different. Some of us are here tonight wondering why your life hasn't changed. It's because we're doing the same thing. Maybe we haven't taken a second. And I'm literally talking about myself. In preparation for this, I'm like, geez, there's so many areas of my life where I'm like, why is that the same? Why is that just the same old, same old? Maybe it's because I'm using the exact same mindset, the exact same approach that I had previously. So what's not working? What's not working for you this year? What's not working? I love the story in the Bible of the prodigal son, which in a nutshell is Jesus tells a story of this man who blows a lot of money on stuff that just doesn't set him up for a win in life. Like just super simple. He just spends all this money on stuff that does not set him up for a win. I love it because he got to a point where he's like, you know what? This is just not working. The decisions I'm making and the things that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, they ain't helping me. They're just not working. And I think so often we can just keep going and keep going and keep going and not stop to realize, okay, what's not serving me well? what is not setting the future me up for a win? If future me sat down with for a cup of coffee with me, would they be stoked with the decisions I'm making? What's not working? What's not working? I love this other verse in 1 Corinthians 10:23. I have the right to do anything, some people say, but not everything is exactly beneficial. But I have the right to do anything, but maybe not everything is constructive. Maybe not everything is building the future that you actually want to live in. So reflecting on the past 6 months, what would you say isn't working for yourself? Just think about your life. Think about every area of your life. What would you say is just not helping? What's not helping you achieve your goals? What's not helping you have a good mindset? What's not helping you become the best version of yourself? What mindsets are holding you back? What habits are holding you back? Getting out of bed in the morning, first thing you're doing is scrolling on your phone for half an hour, looking at everyone else's life thinking, gee whiz, everyone's killing it out there. Everyone's kicking goals left, right, and center. Why do I feel so sad? Why do I feel so unsure if this is the right path for me, if this is the right career path, or if I should be doing this because I'm facing challenge and it seems like, I don't know, maybe other people aren't doing it. I'm not sure if that habit's going to serve you well. Maybe it's some of our friendships. Maybe some of us are literally hanging around the most saddest people 24/7 and we're wondering why we feel so sad. I've got a mate of mine who's just super negative. Every situation is like, oh, this thing sucks and this thing sucks and this thing sucks. And then I'm like, bro, do you wonder why there's not a load of people that want to sit next to you? Like this dude, like some people light up the room when they leave the room. It's like, I'm honestly speaking, like I think I've found myself in that little mindset. Sometimes rocking up to things, being like, man, this is just so challenging. This is so difficult. And I'm not saying life isn't challenging. I'm not saying life isn't difficult. I'm not saying what you're facing isn't hard at all. But I'm just saying maybe some mindsets are holding us back. Maybe some friendships are not helping the future you get a win. So what's not working? What's not working? You're the only one that can answer that question. What's not working? What's not helping you? What's not serving you well? What's not working? I think we're never going to get where we want to go in this life. If you think about the preferred version of your future, or your preferred future right now, what your future looks like, what's that ideal picture in your head? What's that version of you that you want to be? What's the sort of company you want to be around? What do you want it to look like? That won't happen unless you take a second and just stop and be like, what is not working? If each one of our thoughts are like building our next days in front of us, what are we building with our thoughts? What are we building with our mindsets? What are we building with our habits? And I know that's quite like a bit of a downer point right now, like, you know, what's not working? Everyone, think about all the areas you suck. It's like, it's not what I'm trying to do. But these areas, the cool thing about these areas is that these are like the biggest like ding, 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 ding area of like, okay, maybe I should change that area. Maybe I should make a little adjustment. Maybe I should just change the way that I'm operating in that area right now. So I hope it doesn't sound like we're just sort of sitting down in the dumps now, but I hope, if anything, I hope as you're sitting here tonight, I really hope that something's stirring in you to be like, dang, I actually really want to do something about this life that I'm living. I don't want to get to the end of it and just be shocked with, oh, I'm so surprised on how things aren't changing. Maybe you've got a friend and every time they come to you, they whinge about the same thing but never do anything to change it. And you're kind of like, are you crazy? But then as I'm saying that out loud right now, I'm literally like, that's me. I find myself do that. Complaining about things but not willing to change them. So what's working? What's not working? And the last one is, well, what now? What now? You know, in the halftime setting in a game, maybe the boys are kind of just like, maybe their breath's back, maybe they're just a little bit more composed. That halftime period comes to an end. There's 15 minutes in soccer where you literally just get to just chill out, think about your life. Well, think about your life. Well, sometimes we're losing and I'm actually thinking about my life. I'm like, what am I even doing? But sometimes you're sitting there and you're just like, geez, okay, this is what's happened. This is what we want to change. Okay. But imagine if we just sat in the dressing room for the next second half. We never got back out, never put those things into practice, never actually made it happen. So the question I want to ask you tonight is, well, what now? What now? What are things going to look like as you leave tonight? Monday morning, tomorrow morning, what habits are you going to set? What things are you going to try to start to build up? What now? What changes are we going to make? And I love what, I remember Levi shared this once. It was that changes and making changes to help you grow are very often not, like they're very rarely convenient. Very rarely are you making a change like, oh, this change is just so easy. Making changes in life is a breeze. It's like, no, usually it takes effort. Usually it takes frustration. Usually it's like, oh, gee, this is a bit of a slog for a while. But it's always worth it. Even the smallest little change is always worth it. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I can think about these changes I might want to make in my life. Maybe I want to change a big part of my life. And it's like, dang, that takes a lot of effort, to change that. Like, that's a lot, man. That's a lot. And sometimes it can be like, I'll do that at some point. And next minute, the Christmas carols are playing at Grand Central and the year's wrapped up. What now? What now? I love what this verse says in 2 Timothy 1:7, which honestly reminds me that change can be difficult. Change is difficult. But I love that when we put our hope in God, when we ask God for strength, when we get around good people, it is so possible. And maybe you're here tonight, maybe you're like, you know what, this is such a cute message, Jordy. What's working, what's not, and what now? Great job. But maybe you're like, dude, I don't have what it takes to make a change. I don't have the energy to make a change. I've been living the way I've been living for months and years, and it's such a big thing to make a change. I hope this verse encourages you. For the Spirit, 2 Timothy 1:7, for the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid. Doesn't make us timid and unsure about, oh man, I just don't know. I'm just not really sure if I can do it. But gives us power, love, and I love this one, which is the least sexiest thing you're hearing all night, self-discipline. Self-discipline. That's what the Spirit of God gives us. Sometimes we can come to church, can I be real? Sometimes we can come to church just to listen to a few songs and hear a message, and then just not change a thing, and still live sloppy, and still not care about how we treat people, and still treat our job like it's just a job and God doesn't actually want to use us there, and just treat our sporting teams like, I'm just part of a sporting team. It's not like God wants to do anything there. But imagine if we got a hold of this. Imagine if we got a hold of the fact that God actually wants to use your life. He actually wants to use it. He wants to use you in your workplace, use you with every single person that you come across, use your gifts, use your talents and your time to actually make a difference. For the love that God gives us, for the Spirit that God gives us. It should spark something. It should kickstart something in us. Because that halftime period comes to an end. A Sunday service comes to an end. Being in here thinking about your life doesn't mean much unless we make some changes. So what would you say is your next step? Moving forward in this year, but maybe not even just this year, moving forward in your life. What sort of life do you want to build? What sort of friendships do you want to build? What sort of friends do you want to have? What sort of person do you want to be? What is that preferred future that you have in mind? I love golf. Well, I love and hate golf. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. I enjoy the sport, but there's moments where I just feel like grabbing the club and like just turning it and just absolutely just throwing it, if I'm honest. It's such a fun sport if you play it, but if you want to get humbled in life, go play golf. If you're feeling a little bit cocky, if you're feeling like, man, if you feel like you're the bee's knees, pick up a golf club, go to the driving range, tell me how you go. Maybe you're good, maybe you're good. I'm obviously not good, but it's so funny about golf. Sometimes I'll hit like such a nice shot and I'm like, oh man, did anyone else see that? That was so good. And then the next shot, man, why is the ball behind me? Like, how did it get there? But it's funny how just even when you're playing golf, just the slightest change in your swing, the slightest change in your in your knee movement, the slightest change in what you do makes the ball go all sorts of directions, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. But the slightest change, just the slightest change, can make such a big difference. So tonight, if you're waiting for a convenient time to make a change, you might be waiting a real long time. If you're waiting for the right time to just start making some small changes in your life that's going to serve you well and set you up for a win, you might be waiting for a real long time. So what now? As we leave tonight, as you get in your car, as you head off, as you go back to your job tomorrow morning, as you go back to your university tomorrow morning, as you have your cup of coffee, as you do what you usually do, what now? What are you going to change? What are we going to change? Imagine if we woke up with actually a bit of wind in our sails. Maybe it is tonight just going home and just thinking, what is going well for me right now? What's happening in my life that I can say, you know what, this is great. This is serving me well. What's not going well? What's not working? What are some things that maybe just need to be tweaked a little bit? And then let's put that thing into action. Let's do something about it. I even encourage you right now just to pull out your phone. Literally, pull out your phone. Yeah, do it. I dare you. I dare you. Pull out your phone in church. And I've got some questions for us that hopefully challenge us, and hopefully get us excited about what's to come. First question that I'd love you to just write down is, like, write the answers down, don't write the question down unless you want to. Think of a few things that you've absolutely crushed this year. And I know we live in this funny culture where it's kind of like, don't talk about those things. Don't think too much about where you're doing well, because you're a little bit cocky. And maybe you can sound a bit arrogant talking about what you've crushed. I actually love something that my bosses did in my workplace is we did this exercise where I think we sort of noticed that some of us were lacking some confidence. And we actually went around our boardroom table and we had to say this statement, I crushed it when ... We had to. And even as I was saying it out loud, like, I think I did a good job when. I just had this level of like, I didn't really back myself. So this is full reign to just toot your own horn for a second. Think of a few things that you've absolutely crushed this year. Write them down and take some time to celebrate them. Some of us are kicking goals and we don't even realize it. Next question. What are some goals that you set out to achieve this year, but you've forgotten about? What are some things that you said, you know what, this year I want to do that. This year I want to chase that. This year I really want to work on this area of my life. But maybe you've forgotten about them. And lastly, what's some changes? What's some little changes that you'd like to make so that the next 6 months look different than the last 6 months? What are some small little changes in your day-to-day life that maybe you can just tweak, just change a bit, that's actually gonna set you up for a win? What are some small changes? There's no better day to make a change than right now. I think for me in my life, there's loads of decisions that I've probably made and like everyone's made in your life to try and set yourself up for a win in your life. And maybe it's decisions around your career path or decisions around which friends you want to hang out with. Maybe it's decisions around which hobbies you want to have. All sorts of decisions. But honestly, for myself, I think once I said, you know what? I want more meaning on this earth. I want to know that I actually matter more than just getting money or living a life and just sucking air and then dipping in 80 years or whatever if I'm lucky. Sorry if that's depressing, but that's kind of how sometimes we live. We're just here to just do our job and then leave. But I remember the moment I heard there's a God that genuinely put me here. There's a God that looked at the earth without me and looked at the earth without you and then said, nah, this needs a bit of you in it. That did something for me. It really did. It made me change the way I view small moments. It made me change the way I view small little changes. And so I know for me personally, choosing to say, you know what? I'm actually going to start living like my life actually does matter. I'm going to start living my life in a way that I believe is similar to the way that God actually views me. That I'm loved, that I'm accepted, that I'm valued, that he has a plan for me. I'm not just here to just try and just hope it works out, kind of ish. It's like, no, you can actually walk in confidence that God has put you on this earth with a purpose and a plan. Even if it's hard, even if it's just so confusing sometimes, you can have this assurance that's just deep in your heart that I know it might seem so just like, what is going on? But there is hope. There is hope that God is with me. There is hope that I know that he's going to work things out. There's hope that I know I'm here for a reason. If I'm breathing, he's not finished with me. My situations might seem dark, but there's nothing too dark that he can't step in and light up. And so if you're here tonight and maybe this whole God thing is kind of different or new or weird, and you want to sort of make that decision of like, man, I want to know that my life matters. I want to find that love and that meaning that can be found in God. Pastor Levi is going to come and share a bit about that.